I think me and you've had some pretty nasty wrecks, and I've been open about mine, but I was wondering if you thought that any of that ever had an effect on you personally.
I think that it definitely has. I learned a lot about it after I left NASCAR. Before that, I didn't really pay attention to it.
Yeah.
And when I crashed my sprint car hard and knocked out, and
You took a little break.
and realized,
Yeah, didn't you have to step out?
yeah, I tried to race.
Yeah.
And basically I was entering the corner. When I thought I was entering the corner at the right time, it was like 100 feet late.
Yeah.
And I had no clue other than when I would get there, I was in a different spot than I really thought I was in.
Right.
And that's when I realized, I mean, I was questioning kind of my head.
So
but
let me ask you this. So that's interesting to me because there's like when I would have an issue, right? If I'd crash and I'd have it, I was like, I knew, like, yeah, I'm messed up. There's a problem. Now, give me a second here. When we're in our 20s or when we're young,
yeah,
right? I had concussions and crashes and rang my bell, we'd call it, that I didn't think were a big deal. You know, I wrecked it in 98 at the Xfinity race at Daytona. I flipped and hit my head on the door top and was dizzy and thought it was funny because in my mind it was gonna go away in a couple days, 1 day, 2 day, whatever.
Yeah.
And no big deal. I didn't think anything about it being a long-term problem or should I race next weekend? No, it was just fine, you know. And there were other crashes that I was probably messed up and didn't know it. And then when I got older, it was real easy to tell there's a problem. And there are other guys that I know that it's not as obvious to them when there's a problem, right? There's been other racers that I know that have crashed and they're like, man, I felt fine. I felt totally fine. But then I got out there and this happened and I was like, oh, that's not right. But I felt fine. I had no clue.
Yeah.
And so, and it sounds like you kind of fell into that boat. Like you had this crash, you got knocked out, you thought everything was good, and then you drive in the car and you're like, that's not quite what needs to be happening. But otherwise, walking around, talking every day, getting up in the morning, doing your thing, living life, you were oblivious. You had no idea that there was going to be this issue till you put yourself in stress, right, and are in duress.
Right.
Right, behind the wheel of a car. Is that kind of...
So I'd say that's partly correct with me. So I just know of 2 concussions. Yeah. One was the one that was in sprint cars 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and learned a lot about it since then. And after that, I was like, man, I bet there was other times and didn't put it together.
Right.
There was another in 13. I crashed at Loudon, New Hampshire, hit the inside wall. Yeah. You gave this really crazy interview. Do you ever have you so
watched
I'd seen
that
the
back?
interview and it's very confused.
Yes.
And I caught myself after that. I would be driving so I'd be driving I lived in Sherrills Ford. I'd be driving into Mooresville and just be happy as can be running 25 miles an hour down the road, 35 miles an hour down the road.
A 50-mile-an-hour zone or something. Like slow.
And have no clue.
Yeah.
Right. So I caught myself doing things like that after that one.
Yeah.
But I never felt off in the car.
But did you
But when I look back, I know I had to have been off in the car.
Sure.
But I didn't feel it. You know, the only things that were off to me was, you know, I'd catch myself doing things that I was surprised I was doing on the roads.
Yeah.
So that means, you know, in the car I might have been as well.
Yeah.
But always raced through it. Prior to that, I never felt anything different, weird, nothing.
That's so frustrating because that there are people similar to yourself, like that have an issue, but don't recognize it or don't. It's not obvious. And I think, you know, I just watch drivers and I go, man, I wonder if he knows maybe he's not okay, right? And they're just like it was easy, I guess, for me to tell like I got a problem, man. I need to pay attention to this. But other people, it's just weird how it affects people differently.
And I would say in some situations they might know something's off, and then others they may not at all. Because I feel like I was on both sides of it, and I've looked a lot at I've looked at it a lot since I learned more about it. I went to PA, learned a lot about concussions and how to help myself.
Did you go see Mickey?
Mickey.
Yeah.
And it was he's like the best.
The man.
The man.
Isn't
like
he?
the best doctor I've ever. He makes you feel really good and understand what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, that clicks. Like it was really good, visits up there.
Yeah. I think I remember you going up there. So let me ask you this question: when you get past that crash in the sprint car, you take the time, you do the right thing, everything Mickey's telling you to do, right?
Yeah.
You do the homework. You're back at full song, 70 races a year, 3 years in a row. How do you measure? Like, I have girls, you've got kids. How do you measure the risk at this age, right? Like, we're doing this bonus racing, right?
Right.
Like, my idea of playing it safe is pretty silly. I'm like, I just don't need to race every week. I can race, a couple here and there, and that really lowers my odds of getting myself in trouble because I don't need to hit anything, right? And now, could I hit something and be fine? More than likely, but I don't need to test that theory, right? And so that's why I race very minimal, and but you're back at it, hard at it. 70 races a year. You're in the throes, putting yourself at risk like any other racer in the sprint car world.
Yeah.
How do you justify that?
So I talked to Amy about it, and make sure that we're on the same page with it.
That's important.
I think about it probably more than what I should.
Well, that's okay.
But
you're 44 years old.
Yeah. Right.
You have to.
I have to. And I feel like I want to. Mm-hmm. And because of that, like every single time, I learned from that last wreck, that wreck where I hit my head hard, that I just need to be more, like really do a much better job of understanding where I'm at and who I'm around. Yeah. And, and their tendencies, and just how maybe they race and just do just basically use my head more than just going out there and going as hard as you can.
Yeah.
So I look at everything a little differently now.
Did you change anything?
I feel like I'm more aware of the situations I'm in, where I'm at, what I'm trying to accomplish, and do it in that scenario. And
did you think about anything physically with the car, the headrest, the helmet, or what you could be doing differently?
Yeah, I mean, I've John Padalak.
Mm-hmm.
He came by our shop from NASCAR and spent a good bit of time reviewing some wrecks with me, and I learned way more about what the seatbelts are going through, what seatbelts are going through what, because certain ones really aren't doing a whole lot, and other ones are, depending on how you land. So I learned a lot about that, and have fixed our cars to be better off of that, and most sprint cars are that way now.
Yeah.
I've also, worked on the headrest stuff. John, has helped me with that. And
what were some of the things you did? Like if maybe a guy driving got a sprint car, he can pay attention and learn something.
So to me the biggest thing is, or the two biggest things I've done, and I won't race a sprint car without it, is we put a second that the center belt between your legs goes over a steel bar basically, so it can't tear the seat back. That was one thing that I had. It was
tear the seat back.
Yeah, so you, like where the center belt comes up and goes through the seat.
Yep.
Usually that hole's a little further in front. So when you wreck hard upside down, I tore my seat once through there.
Jesus, the aluminum? Is it an aluminum seat?
Which instantly made the belt
looser,
3 inches longer.
Damn it!
So now you've lost that center belt. So the next time I landed that way, I didn't really have a the center belt, and that's the only belt that pretty much holds you, or it holds the highest percentage by far when you land on your top.
Damn it, dude. That's important.
So that's important.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that's, you know, changing a lot. Like Maxim cars, or that's Sprint car, their cars are built that way. Other brands are as well. And then the chasm systems, the latest, I started doing it after, you know, when our cars land on the frame rails, just land straight down, the pressure of that just goes, it's just all into the driver's body. And the bodies just can't handle it. And we've learned that that's the biggest, to me, the easiest way to get hurt in a sprint car and can cause the most damage, in my opinion. So we run this system called the chasm. It's like, it has pucks that when the car hits that direction, it squishes into, you have different stiffness of pucks.
Where
and
are
the
these
seat
located?
Absorbs, the
seat?
seat bar sits on top of the pucks, and then they're welded to the chassis. So that comes through Maxim as well. And through Chasm's the one who created the system, and I wouldn't race a sprint car without both of those systems these days. And that's, to me, I've crashed one time since where I landed on the rail and could not believe
the difference.
Yeah. And I look at it as more of like landing in a pillow compared to landing on a,
yeah,
you know, on the cement.